Hi everyone, Ranger Melanie here from Tumacácori National Historical Park, and welcome to our very first live reading of Pancho's Scrapbook. You know, I was supposed to have a co-host, a friendly face, tall, red, feathered, name of Pancho, but he didn't show up, so I'm just gonna have to carry on and continue like, brave ranger that I am. So, this is Pancho's Scrapbook, a bird's eye view of Tumacácori. A long, long time ago, a little family of vermilion flycatchers welcomed a new baby boy to the world. His Latin name is Pyrocephalus rubinus, which means ruby firehead. Pancho knew he was different from the other birds in the forest. He grew and grew. Well, maybe some of you have a name that means something in another language or is meaningful in your family or your culture. He and his family lived along the Santa Cruz River, which is important habitat for living things. Lots of wildlife and plants live here. It's a rare place in Arizona that has a flowing river all year long. Humans live here too. It's the home of the O'odham people. They call this big red bird Svuk Uehik. Can you guess what that means in the O'odham language? Now listen, a lot of park visitors get frustrated. They come to national parks to see animals, and wildlife can be elusive, hard to see. So my advice, just be patient, okay? You would not believe what kinds of amazing creatures some of our more keen observers will find. In 1691, someone new arrives. Father Eusebio Francisco Quino, with orders from the King of Spain, traveled thousands of miles to create mission communities here. A mission is more than a church. It's a community whose residents learn a new way of life. Things at Tumacácori would certainly change. The O'odham had an important decision to make. Quino's an interesting character. In pictures and statues, he's always on a horse, looking very heroic and gallant. But, let's keep in mind, he's just a person, a human like you and me, flawed. But, if stories are true, he was a very kind person, generous, and likable. On the one hand, the O'odham way of life wasn't too shabby. People have been living here for thousands of years. They grew and collected food, made tools, and raised their families. They could grind corn and mesquite beans using a mano and metate. Now this page, very important, even though it looks like he's scotch taped a bunch of artifacts to his book, Pancho needs to remind everyone that you never, ever, ever collect plants, rocks, or especially artifacts from national parks. On the other hand, the Spanish were offering some appealing new things. Technology, larger buildings, and new foods from all over the world would become available. It would mean a lot of work, but imagine your life without any of these food crops. This decision is getting tricky, isn't it? I think of it kind of like if an alien spaceship landed and the little green men poured out and they all come out saying, hey, would you like some of this really cool, fancy sci-fi technology? And all you have to do is give up all of your earthling ways. Would you do it? Father Quino and the Spanish were welcomed. The people began their work. A large church was built with mud and bricks, painted and adorned with carved wooden statues. Bells rung out in the bell tower. The big red bird took the name Pancho, short for Francisco, in honor of Quino's patron saint. Tumacácori became a community with people and traditions from all over the world. It is impressive when you think about how many languages may have been spoken in a little place like Tumacácori, and not just English, Spanish, but German and Latin and O'odham and Yaqui or Yoeme and Inde and Swiss and French, all of it. Although they came from different places, everyone lived close together. They shared the work and the rewards. The storeroom is big enough to hold food and supplies for everyone. Some years were good, others not so good. Not everyone got along, agreed with each other, or shared nicely. Strange new sicknesses made many people ill. That is starting to sound familiar, isn't it? Pancho watched the community bury its loved ones in the cemetery. They used the round mortuary chapel to remember those who had died. People started to leave. Some were scared away by conflict. Others left to seek their fortune. In 1848, the last residents packed up and walked north to the Mission San Javier near Tucson. Pancho was sad to see his human friends leave, along with all their pretty church decorations. Now you can still see 6 of those original Tumacácori santos back in the park in our museum, and 3 more still on display at San Javier. With no one taking care of them, the building started to fall apart. Pancho met gold hunters, soldiers, and cowboys who spent the night here. Some even dug holes or wrote their names on the wall. So rude. But in 1908, President Theodore Roosevelt established Tumacácori National Monument. Pancho welcomed the first park rangers assigned for duty. Yeah, park rangers do all kinds of really cool jobs, and I'm betting some of you have thought that it might be really fun to work in a national park, and it is. He watched as they helped to preserve and protect the ruins of the mission. It is dirty and dangerous work. They also built the visitor center and museum. They included details from other missions in Sonora. In fact, our visitor center and museum are so unique and so amazing. It is on the National Register of Historic Places and a National Historic Landmark, and that is a pretty big deal. Eventually, the park boundaries would grow to include Pancho's beloved Santa Cruz River and 2 other mission sites. Now it's called Tumacácori National Historical Park. Today, Pancho shares his home with lots of different friends. He loves to welcome visitors to the park, dance, take pictures, and teach people about his home. And now, it is your turn to do that because, as we know, the Junior Ranger motto is explore, learn, protect. So I want to thank you for joining me for our first live story time of Pancho's Scrapbook. I'm sorry you missed the big red bird himself. If you run into him, tell him I'm really sorry, but he missed it, the whole thing. Hey, see you guys next time.